What I'm saying is that raising your kids here, you can make it whatever you want it to be.
Let's not pretend as if we don't know that the ways of the Western world is very different from the ways of an African. And these children are exposed to so many things abroad.
The way we were brought up, the way we grew up, all of those values that we grew up knowing back home, do we still have the same standards today?
Not to speak that Africa is bad or desolated or anything, but the values that are here or the opportunities that are here, they are not, I would say they are unlimited when it comes to raising children.
A kid is not even allowed to grow in America. They start prescribing medication. Some of these things are not medical issues, some of them are things that even children can outgrow.
In America, no matter how fast-paced America is, if you and your partner have a common ground, a common system, a common understanding, and then you build a community, trust me, you can make it work.
One thing I realize in America's system, you work to live. Life should not be like that.
American system
we should live to work.
If you allow it to.
It's not allowed.
Society will influence your child.
Yes.
Is that influence positive or negative? That's where.
It could be
exactly,
both.
Because you have to let a child make some mistakes too. We're talking about values, we're talking about cultures, we're talking about principles. So if a child wakes, the Nigerian mentality is that if a child wakes up in the morning or a child sees you in the afternoon and a child is able to greet, it means no. That if you ask an average person, that's the first step to say this child won't call it. They train this child away.
That's why a parent should start training, educating those child, expose them to the information
to the bad or the ills of the society.
Educate them right
before you
from
are
that
the ills of the
little.
society.
Don't paint America like a perfect society.
It is not.
It's not. Of course not.
I took my daughter to the doctor, right? And the doctor is already putting in my daughter's mind that you don't let your daddy see. It's unnecessary. I'm not even thinking anything like that. You're telling my daughter when your daddy's coming to your room, make sure he knocks. Don't let your daddy see you like this. Don't let her, all those things. She's just 2 years old.
And now I've seen situations where a child that was.
Am I putting my child in any danger?
A child. I wouldn't know.
No.
I was a debater when I was in secondary school.
Just hold on.
Get into it.
Yeah, just hold on.
Okay, the point.
There's a point I would like to raise here.
Okay. I believe that so many Nigerians or so many Africans have come to the United States by themselves. So meaning that most of our extended families are back home. So when you say education, to me, education is not just formal. It could also be informal education. And when a child is isolated, to just his mother and father in somewhere, they're only getting education from two people and their experience. And in Africa, they say it takes a village to raise a child. We all know that in the United States, everybody is geared towards career, work. People are too busy. These children are left in the hands of strangers. You might argue that, caregivers and all of that. But going back, at least once in a while to give them an informal education of where they are from kind of opens their mind to different things. They have choices. Let's not pretend as if we don't know that the ways of the Western world is very different from the ways of an African. And these children are exposed to so many things abroad. Having to explain to them sometimes, as a parent, that this way of life is not the only way of life obtainable. Sometimes it's very difficult. You have to take them away from that environment to show them another way of life, to show them their extended family, to learn from their uncles, to learn from their their sisters, cousins, relatives, and 99% of Africans don't have the luxury of having their entire family around them. And like I said, this is a thing of preference. Someone like me, my kids have not even met, their closest relative. So why will I be objected to taking my kids back to Nigeria or Africa to have them have some form of education? We are not saying abandon them, leave them and run away, or put them in a boarding school for 6 years and don't attend to them. We are saying take them away from this environment once in a while. Let them. So long as you trust that your background that raised you is sufficient enough to also give them that type of information. Yeah, why not? I have uncles with deep experiences. I have aunties with a lot of experience in life, more experience than I have. So I'm never objected to that. Sometimes I even feel isolated being the only one here to raise my kids by myself. You can't claim that you know everything. So yeah, and I mean, I'll just rest the mic for now, let the other participants have their own contribution to this. But that to me, I think I just talked a little bit on some of the reasons why I feel like, yes, a child needs informal education, or even formal education from a place where their parents come from. It gives them a broader mind, broader perspective. They understand why their parents act the way they do, because so many parents here can't even explain to their children the origin of some of the cultural things they try to teach them, and that can be very, very very, very, very difficult. It can cause issues in a relationship.
Okay. I don't want to cut you. I'm more of the opinion that training a child here in the US or in any Western part of the world, or any part of the world in particular, does not, in every area, affect the child. This is no offense to any parent. I don't have kids yet, and this is my personal opinion. It doesn't have to weigh on anybody. But even the scripture says, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. This has a lot of things to do with the society in particular. And wherever you find yourself, there will always be good and bad. There will always be wrong and right. I believe, and I am of the opinion that raising your child here, for instance, I'll use the United States as a study. Raising your child here is the best option that you can give that child as a parent when it comes to formal education or informal education, or learning the way of life, so to speak. I believe that you can raise a community of your own, people of like mind here. Don't forget that many of us left home because we're in search of better opportunities, better life, a green area. And not to speak that Africa is bad or desolated or anything, but the values that are here or the opportunities that are here, they are not, I would say they are unlimited when it comes to raising children. The type of education a child will garner here in the United States is nothing compared to what they would get there in Africa. Now, if you put a child side by side, a child that was raised here in the United States and a child that was raised in Africa, you can tell the difference between both of them. Because in Africa, most of the things that you are taught in school is to just study your books. But here in the United States, they teach you every facet of life. You find kids here as little as 3 years, 4 years, they already know how technology works. And that's why you find most people after high school, they don't even have to go to college before they can build a life of their own. You find people in Africa at 18 years, 19 years, 20, 25, 30, they're still heavily dependent on their parents. Take it back here. Their counterparts here in the US already understand that at age 16, 17, 18, you should be independent. Now, I'm not saying that you don't find situations where some people are still living under their parents' protection and all of that. But I'm saying that the system already gives you a ground. They already give you a space for you to just launch your dreams, your goals, your aspirations without having to rely or depend on any support in particular. So talking about the fact that you want Of course, it takes a village to raise a child. You can create your own village wherever you find yourself. And that is why bringing people of like minds into the life of your children is very important. If I'm here in the US and I have kids, if I don't want my kids to mingle with people of, I don't want to say terrible virtues, but if I don't want my kids to mingle with people that are unequally yoked with us, I definitely would put boundaries in place so that they don't even get the opportunity to mingle with those people. People like that will not even come for my kids' slumber party. I mean, what do they call all those? Their orishirishi party and all of that. So, what I'm saying is that raising your kids here, you can make it whatever you want it to be. And not to forget that most times, these people, for instance, now the system here in the United States, for instance, there are a lot of don't do this, don't do that. As a parent, you are scared of CPS, you are scared of a lot of factors. Yes, that is not to take out of anything, but it is to also state that your excesses as a parent is curbed. We know some parents are not mentally okay. They're not mentally sane. Most of us were raised with a lot of traumas that we do not even realize right now. It is even the exposure that is making most of us know that, oh, your forgetfulness is due to ADHD. You wouldn't even find this understanding back in Nigeria or back in Africa. Because if you are forgetful, they'll be like, Biola, why did you forget to put the plate here? Coming to the US made me realize that, so my years of forgetfulness, my years of doing this particular way might be because of I have ADHD or because I'm dyslexic. And this is what many people do not know or they're not privy to know back in Africa. So I don't want to talk for too long because, trust me, if you leave me here, I will keep preaching until forever. So let me just let my beautiful lady take over from me.
Now we're talking about education, sending a teenage child specifically, right, to Africa for education. Now, every parent has their reason why they do what they do. But if I want to send my child basically for educational purpose to Africa, then from what time exactly to what time? Because in my opinion, I believe the teenage year from 13 to 19 is the time a child needs the bonding with their parent. Is a time of that child's life, is their prime age. Is a time you want to give them the full attention that is needed as a parent. So if I send a teenage child out because of the environment, whatever the reason might be, but because of the socioeconomic environment here, now looking back from what you said earlier, Fama, that the way we were brought up, the way we grew up, all of those values that we grew up knowing back home, do we still have the same standards today? That's the question. Whatever we went through back then at our own time is the same. Is the system still the same right now in Africa?
I would say it's worse.
Exactly.
So why would I want to send my child to a worse system when I know when I was there, it was better? But now that I'm out of there.
Before I forget.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you short. I mean, we don't want to pretend like America is perfect.
Of course.
Now you're saying, the best education is gotten here. Nobody's going to send a child to go and receive formal education in Africa when they're in America, right? Most parents that send their children to Africa send them because of morality. Now we're talking about issues like gun control, talk about issues like you mentioned ADHD. ADHD is a kid is not even allowed to grow in America. They start prescribing medication. Some of these things are not medical issues. Some of them are things that even children can outgrow. But they start. A child is too playful in school, for instance. I don't want my child to be subjected to medicine because he's too playful. I was too playful. And right now, I'm not playful anymore. You outgrow certain things. But in America, they start subjecting you and pressuring you to their system and to their ways. We have our ways. We have our medicines. We have the way we culture children. So this system is not perfect. To your point, it's not about formal education alone. It's about perspective. It's about choices. Ownership in this country, for instance, a child is grown or is taught to learn that you have to be indebted. You have to go through credit. Credit is the way of life. Whereas you can have ownership in Africa, you can buy property, you can buy land. Those are the kind of education that a child needs. Exposing them to the fact that this is not this envelope that we are in, or this bubble is not the end of the world. There are you can go to Africa, you can own things, you can grow companies, you can help people. I have cousins that, out here in America, they were very, very they thought, it's legal to carry guns, so I carry guns. Africans don't carry guns just because it's legal.
So can I say something about that?
Okay.
For families are different.
Yeah,
So
that's why I said it's preference.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't allow the society to control my kids. I control my kids, right? So the fact that the system allows you're allowed to carry a gun does not mean I want to talk to my child or permit my child to do that.
You might not be the average parent, right? Like you might be that parent that would call off work just because your daughter is having some issues or your son is having some issues. But we are talking about a society where, people clocking and out, it's fast paced. How many parents, it's easy for you to say, oh, I'm going to be there with my children, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. In reality, I want to be with my kids all day. I want to go to their training, I want to watch their sports. But how many hours do I spend with my kids every day?
To be
in
honest,
reality,
I don't want to interrupt you.
So I'm not saying that let's not look at like what we would do or the sacrifices we will go through for our children. Let's look in general with what's going on in America. In general, kids are isolated. Kids feel isolated. My children spend more time in the daycare, and this is fact. More time in the daycare than with me, not by my doing, but because I have to work and pay the bills. So whatever they learn at the daycare is society. Society is controlling that. If they choose to tell your children that, oh, you're not a girl, you can call yourself Awa, or you can call yourself this, and they put it in their syllabus, you have no control over that.
Okay, I want to just cut you short, just briefly. Okay. What is the first agent of socialization? It is the family. The family is the first agent.
Not in America, though. Because children go to this is not Africa. Children go to daycare as soon as 2 days.
Okay, you know what?
Let me say something. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
2 days.
Hold on. Let me say something.
In Africa, it is, but in America, it is not.
No. Generally speaking, now based on facts and figures, if they ask anybody what is the agent of socialization,
I would say in America,
I would tell you not. If you Google it now, what is the first agent? Let me land. If anybody is asking you now, what is the first agent of socialization? It's the family.
America.
Now, it is what you make that family. That is what it is. Chill. Let me explain why. Now, if you believe that for you to raise your kids, America is fast-paced. Everybody knows that. Lagos is fast-paced. I hope you know that. Chill, and let me explain. Now, the average Nigerian, I don't want to talk about Africa. I want to talk about a part of Africa that I know for certainty. Let's talk about Nigeria, for instance. The average Lagosian leaves home as early as 3 a.m. in the morning.
Absolutely.
The average Lagosian gets home as late as 11 p.m. in the night. You are up again the next day. Trust me, most parents do not even see their kids eyeball to eyeball. In America, no matter how fast-paced America is, if you and your partner have a common ground, a common system, a common understanding, and then you build a community. That's why I talked about building a community initially. You build a community. Trust me, you can make it work. And I'm saying this because I know people that have built system over time that works for them. Now, information is the spice of life. If you don't have information, trust me, you keep going round and round in circles, and when you find yourself in a particular place, you will not be able to adapt to that situation. You keep looking for an easy way out. Now, when it comes to Nigeria, I won't lie that Nigeria has a whole lot of values. I was raised in Nigeria, and I know the kind of values and virtues that I grew up with. But to put that values in my kids, I do not need the system to control that child if I want to control that child, because a child's mind is blank. That's why they say a child is born tabula rasa. The mind is empty. It is what you feed that mind that the child will grow up with. I will give a life scenario. So myself and my husband, we went to Maryland to spend a couple of days with one of his uncle. And now I was so amazed the way the kids behaved. Because I always have this notion that kids in America, they're not well behaved, they don't greet, they're not well cultured, they're not mannered. That's my general understanding. I'm sorry to generalize because I've also seen American kids that are amazing as well. But this was my understanding, and I've always had this fear of raising my kids here. But I know better now because I've seen people that have made it work, and I believe I can make it work as well. Now, when I was at this house, just so that I don't digress, when I was at this house, I see a little girl waking up by 4 a.m. and she will be like, Auntie, good morning. I'm like, the first day, trust me, I was surprised because I've never seen that kind of thing before. Chill.
But sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
That's very, very shallow when we talk of education, right? If we're not talking
You
about
know,
beauty,
chill. You talked about formal and informal education.
I mentioned things like ownership, right? I mentioned. Wait, hold on.
That's what I'm telling you.
You
It
know
is
what?
that Nigerian system is
You know
good
what?
that makes you feel like a credit system is bad.
It's
You know
not
what?
bad. I didn't say it's bad. I said
You
options.
make it
I said
seem so.
options.
You-
No, I never said
Okay,
it's bad.
in
I
the
said,
US,
I said,
Just
You
hold
want
on.
something.
Just hold
I
on.
said, hold on. I
Hold
said,
on.
I
Okay.
said, I said.
I was a debater when I was in
Yeah,
secondary
I
school.
Just
so
hold
let's
on.
get
Okay,
into it.
okay.
Yeah, just hold on.
Okay,
You know
so
the
we don't have
point.
panel on
There's a
judges.
point I would like to raise here.
Okay.
Do we allow the system to control us? Because one thing I realize in America's system, you work to live. Life should not be
don't
like
tell me
that.
American system
We should
controls
live
you.
to
Let me-
work.
let me-
If you allow it to.
It's not allowed. I just gave you an instance. For instance, like my child at home does not eat American food. Point blank, we don't eat it.
Because
But
you
in the
raised that
daycare-
child.
No. In the daycare,
Yeah.
they are fed American food because the FDA. They tell you, hold on.
Okay.
They tell you that is what the FDA has approved. That is control. So you
Now,
can't sit
do
here and
you
say,
know?
Wait.
Do you know
I'm not
that? Okay,
done.
finish. Let me not
So
interrupt.
you can't sit here and say America does not control you. I don't want my child to eat what jelly or whatever all these things are, but they eat it in school because FDA wants it. But am I going to put them away from school? No. So that is control. Let us leave this mindset that America does not control.
First of all, I want you to know something.
Hold on.
Information is
daughter
key in
has
the
come
US.
home. My daughter has come home before and told me, Daddy, this is what I want to eat. And I'm like, you don't even eat that in this house. What is that? You feel me? So she's learning. Let's not be.
You are boxing her, but you are not even saying that.
I'm not boxing her.
You are. That is
I
what
said,
the American
I said
system is
she's
against.
introducing things into the house that we don't do.
Exactly.
There was no boxing there.
Like food.
This is things that I don't know. Like
Okay.
we don't know. I'm not boxing. I never said. If I'm boxing her, I said never eat that again. I never said that.
Let's take
I
it
said
back
she's
to
only
Africa.
Introducing things to the home and that is also society influencing your child.
Let's take it
Of
back
course,
to
it's normal.
Africa.
You
Let's
can't
just
come
think
and say,
about
"No,
Africa.
Society will influence your child.
Yes.
Is that influence
And-
positive or
and
negative? That's
it could
where
be both. It could be
exactly
both.
because
I
you
also
have to let a
mentioned-
child make some mistakes too.
Yeah,
Don't
but
forget that.
I'm not here to say good morning. No, good morning and good afternoon.
You didn't let me land.
There are so many.
We're talking
deeper
about formal and
issues.
informal education. We're talking about values. We're talking about cultures. We're talking about principles. So if a child wakes, the Nigerian mentality is that if a child wakes up in the morning or a child sees you in the afternoon and a child is able to greet, it
Nah,
means
I'm not even-
no.
that's not even what I'm about.
That child
That if you
knows
ask an
the
average
moral
Nigerian, that's
values.
the first step to
Right.
say this child won't call it. They train this child well. Let's say it as it is. That's what everybody will think, that if a child knows when and how to behave, how to breathe, when you see elders, your mother will look at you with eye like this and you know how to act. That is a form of training that the US system will not teach your child if you fail to teach your child that. Now, while I was giving this example, is because I saw kids that will wake up, will do their laundry themselves, and then I asked the man, because I couldn't help myself, I said, what have you done to these children? What have you done to help them behave like this? And then he told me, he said, the way that I teach my children, the way their mother teaches them, the kind of people I put them with. He said, I'm telling you that they will go to school and pick up stuff. When they come in my house, I remove that stuff from their mind. Even in this Nigeria that you're talking about, in Africa, your children will definitely mix with different breeds. It is your authority as the first agent of socialization that your child will definitely rely upon. Trust me, the American system, that's why I say there's no perfect. I'm not painting a picture that America is perfect. I'm just telling you, of course, Nigeria is equally not perfect.
system is
If you're
perfect.
talking about gun
It's not
violence,
system
if you're
bad.
talking about gun violence,
it is
trust
bad.
me, banditry, kidnapping is the order of the
cultism
day. So
in
you
Nigeria.
cannot say a system is perfect in any way. Here we have the
When you say
advantages and
cultism, hold
disadvantages.
on, let's clear this issue. When you say cultism, banditry, those things are illegal in Nigeria. Illegal. If you do it, you get caught.
So gun violence is
but in America,
is
there's
gun
so many
violence.
things, there's so many things that are legal. Like telling my child that you can get married to a woman And it's legal, bro. Like, they can put it in their syllabus and teach them. It's legal.
But
it's
you
legal
know
for
that
you-
it
hold
is
on,
becoming
hold on.
fast-paced in
It's
Nigeria
legal,
as well.
It's legal for you to carry a gun. My child can be 18 and carry a gun, and it's legal. I can't do anything about it.
No,
So-
do you know
so
the
no,
gun?
but
The
Nigeria
gun
is-
there's a purpose why they
There's a
established
purpose
the
why,
law.
but there is a purpose, right?
Right.
But the purpose is
that's what I'm
defeated.
saying. That's what I'm saying. That when you're acting, it's like swimming against the wind. You as a parent, you are acting against something that is legalized in a country. It's different. In Nigeria, it's illegal, so it carries a bad omen, right? So you can use that.
So
bad
is
omen.
there a system
You can
in
use that-
place
you can
that
use
will
that-
regulate
Hold
the
on.
legality of that thing you're talking about?
Whether illegality or not, like my dad was using the illegality of those things to train me, right? But now you're dealing with a child that tells you that no, my teacher says is right. That I can call myself dear, or I can call myself our,
True.
or I'm not a girl, I'm not a boy.
Of
it's
course,
legal.
that's
It's-
from
it's- it is constituted. So that's why I said that you have to also give your children options. So I'm not saying that. Again, it is preference. I'm not saying take a child, abandon them, put them in daycare and all of that. But taking them to another environment for a few years, I can relocate because of that purpose. I can get a job in America. I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm here and my children must be here. I don't want to be selfish. I can get a job in America that'll take me to Nigeria. I live in Abuja, in a choice area, and I'll still do the same. But now I'm doing that in a society. It's not laughing. That people have done it.
You know why it's
People
making me
have
laugh?
located- No.
Because this Abuja you mentioned, by the time you step your foot
No,
there,
it's not
probably
by the
they'll
time.
kidnap you.
I'm
As an IJGB,
I'm not
it's possible.
I'm not the average Nigerian again, right? I'm
Okay.
American, so I'm not going to go and live.
That is
inside-
what puts a target
So-
on your back.
The way we train a child in Africa is not the same way in America. America
No, that's what I'm saying.
communicates
The
their
child is
their
getting-
education.
Their concerns and everything.
They
child-
communicate it to the
is
child.
okay, so let's go from a perspective of a child. A child is getting two conflicting information that are right? The society is saying this is how you treat a situation. My parents are saying this is it's conflicting.
It's not.
No,
Let me
no.
explain why it's
It
not.
is conflicting.
That's why
This
a
is not.
parent
So
should start training, educating those child, expose them
Before
to
you are
the
even
information
exposed to the
before
bad
they
or the
go
ills of the
into it.
society.
Educate them right
Before you
from
are shown
that
the ills of the
little.
society.
So you know, in physics,
Let me explain
in
why
physics,
this
I don't know
is
if
not-
anybody did physics here. In physics, there's what they call ideal situation, and there's what they call real situations. I don't like coming to an argument and you're giving me ideal situations. All these situations are ideal.
Oh, yeah, let me tell you, let me
they are
give you-
perfect
because you're not
situations,
letting me
But
speak.
we're talking about the reality on ground.
Let me
so
tell
do
you.
want to blame?
Let me-
do you? Will you?
Let
are
me
you
tell
going to
you
blame-
why I do not agree with you when you talk about conflicting
All these
situations.
things are
Let me
ideal.
explain it.
Yeah,
Let me
okay.
explain it. Now, you're talking about conflicting situations. You're talking about telling your child one thing and the society is telling your child another. And I'm trying to tell you that
And is the reality of things on ground.
first of all, there's no teacher in your school that will tell. Oh, let me land. Don't make that face.
Okay.
There's no teacher in your school that will tell your child if daddy corrects you, call 911.
911.
Hold on.
Wow.
A teacher in a school will tell your child that if you are found in a situation that is harmful to you, call 911.
No.
Hold on.
No.
I am telling
No.
you the truth.
No.
And
No.
because I
No.
have
Remember.
educators.
Let me give you
I have
an instance,
educators
right?
as friends.
My young daughter, right?
Okay.
This is my experience. So don't paint America like a perfect
It
society.
is not.
It's
We
not,
understand
of
that part.
course.
I
Of course
took my
not.
daughter to the doctor, right? And the doctor is already putting in my daughter's mind that if you don't let your daddy see, it's unnecessary. I'm not even thinking anything like that. You're telling my daughter when your daddy's coming to your room, make sure he knocks. Don't let your daddy see you like this. Don't let her, all those things. She's just 2 years old.
And now I've seen situations where I've seen situations where a child that
am
was
I putting my child in any danger?
a child.
I
Is I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
No.
To
no,
that-
You see
no.
situations where parents.
Listen.
Okay, let me let
There are-
Precious. Let me let Precious
Wait,
speak.
hold on.
Okay.
There are information that a 2-year-old should not be. So you said PG-13, right?
That is not.
You know
that is
what?
that is to show you the mentality of an average Nigerian.
You know what?
A 2-year-old
What
should
they
know
are
that
training
somebody should knock before you enter.
before
We
you
don't teach
enter.
children sexual education.
Now, what that
Why would I
doctor
teach my
tried
child
to
sexual education at 2
You
years
see?
old?
You see?
Now-
Because that is why a child will be
But
raped
the-
at 1 year
at 1
old
year
and will
old.
be scared to tell the dad or the mom
Right.
because they were
that
not
is-
raised
I
to
disagree.
speak.
If you have a child, you are going to observe your child. When
Oh
listen,
my God.
when-
Okay,
let
may
me-
I
hold
ask
on.
you a question?
A 2-year-old, you can't start building distrust in a 2-year-old.
May I ask you a question? Listen,
don't
may
go
I
back to
ask you a
trust.
question?
No, it
After
is.
the doctor talked to your daughter, did you go back home to have another education with that child?
Obviously not.
To create
Obviously
that
not.
trust. Like, you can always talk to me, I'm your father.
I don't see. Listen,
Wait,
me
let him
and my
land.
me and my daughter, we are on a straight plain field. There is no reason for that conversation. There is no reason for that. Before a doctor even has that conversation with a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, at least what is the driving factor?
You know
Because we
what?
have parents that are pedophiles.
Your
We have
Don't bring
parents.
that to my home.
Exactly.
Don't educate my child.
A
about
doctor has a
no.
responsibility
Now, listen.
towards that child's
So you're
protection.
exposing-
Now,
so you're
I get your
exposing-
perspective
listen,
and what you're trying
already
to say.
exposing the child at 2-year-old
To the realities of life.
You have to,
The realities of life.
no, you have to understand the
Precious
fact
speak.
that you have to understand the fact that doctors does not know who this father is, if this father is
a good dad or a bad dad.
or a bad dad.
A
What
parent
he's
is a
doing
parent.
is just a natural education
Exactly.
that the doctor will give to a patient. It's not the responsibility of the father or mother to go back and re-educate the child.
And build that trust
and
that you
build
want.
on what has been said.
Hold on.
If a doctor tells my child, make sure daddy knocks before daddy enters your room. Make sure you are well clad before daddy enters your room. It's left for me to tell my daughter what the doctor told you is right. No, anybody shouldn't invade your privacy, myself inclusive. But baby, you know I love you. You know I wouldn't harm you. Whenever I'm coming into your room, of course I'll knock. That is the right thing to do, but because you were raised that way, you see it as wrong.
So for me, in my opinion, to what Adiola just said.
I think Africans, we are always putting the ways of the American above our
You know what? Let me say something to what she just said. Now listen. Let me say something to what she just said.
Why is a 2-year-old? Why should a 2-year-old be exposed to rape?
You know what? It's happening. It's
6 months old babies
Reality. It's happening.
1-year-old baby
right?
is
It's
raped.
happening.
Listen to me. Before you, it's like catching everybody and saying everybody's guilty and everybody's a criminal. That's one of the problems America has. Even with communication, even with the issues of tapping people's phone lines, which is privacy breaches. You can't assume everybody is a criminal and start monitoring everybody. You are invading people's privacy. You have to chase the criminal. That is your due diligence. Find the people that are these pedophiles. Find the people that have these issues and address the issue with them. Don't address the issue with an innocent child that has nothing to do with that. It's a no.
So just like we were saying earlier, this is my personal opinion, and I will still say it one more time. And this is in no means trying to undermine any parent's perspective or any parent's reasons why. However, the pros of raising a child here in the US trumps the cons of raising a child here in the US. I would say it and I will stand by it with my full chest. And I will tell you why. Don't interrupt me. I'll open your mouth already. Why I said this is because, first of all, when it comes to formal education, the US will supersede Nigeria in any way whatsoever. If you're talking about informal education, of which you have been talking about and rambling and all of that, you will decide the kind of informal education you want your child to get and where your child will get that from and the community that you would build to ensure that your child will get that education. And that's why I talk about building a community. Initially, you said, oh, it's hard to build a community. No, it's not hard. That's why, even before you decide to conceive, you have already met people. You have built a network of people that you know that they share the same values and the same principles as you have. And when they have kids, they will also replicate that lifestyle in their children. They will build a community of their own, such as when they go to school and a teacher tells them, oh, when daddy does this, call 911. All right, I've heard you. When that child is confronted with that situation, the child knows better that daddy loves me more than my teacher. What daddy has told me supersedes whatever my teacher. I've seen kids that would even educate their teachers in school. That is because that's what their parents have taught them. Secondly, why I believe that it's better to raise a child here than Nigeria is because already you are a Nigerian, a full-fledged Nigerian. You shouldn't forget your roots. Most Nigerians come here and forget their roots. No, you shouldn't forget your roots, and you will definitely put all of those values in your child. When you do not forget your roots, of course, what does your child need in Nigeria? You are Nigeria. You are Nigerian. You are Nigeria. Anywhere you are in the world. You see that street OT that you think that your child will get in Nigeria. You will build that street OT for your child here in the US. You will share life principles. And don't forget that you have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. That is one problem with many Nigerians here in the US. We believe that mindset we have brought from Nigeria is 100% perfect. I'm not saying the US is perfect in any way. That's not my argument. My argument is that you make perfection. In fact, there's no such thing as perfection, but you make the best of your situation. So if I'm here in the US and I decide to raise a kid, it means that I am going to make a proper launching pad for my children where they wouldn't even miss anything in Nigeria. There's nothing in Nigeria that they would even want for. If they want their grandma will import her. If they want an uncle, I will import the uncle. Let me not talk so much. Let me let somebody else say something.
Yeah, in my own opinion, taking a child to Africa for formal education is a no-no. I'm against it, point blank. And for informal education, of course, I would, like you said earlier, I will create a community where I am. I'll mingle my children with people of like minds, people of same moral values that I want and expect in my children. However, I would love to take my kids to Africa on vacations. Okay. Just so you know. Yeah, I love Nigeria, but I believe the values that I have in myself already, together with my husband, we instill that into them while they're here. And we just travel the world, expose them, not just Africa, even see other countries, see other part of the
even
world.
Even if I want to,
see their cultural values and all that.
My kids have the feel of Nigeria, I'll make sure that even their nannies are Nigerians. If I want to make sure that FDA will not infringe on the right of my children to eat amala and ewedu, I will make sure that my children are taken to Tokumbos.
So when I spoke of this earlier, I never mentioned formal education because we can all tell that the schools here are well funded and everything. I mentioned things like, debt, ownership. I mentioned deep topics like, having more perspective, having more choices. And that's the reason for me to take my kids back there. I remember when I first came to the US, culture shock. We can't give you a house because you have no credit. But I come from a country where, credit is not even seen like that. So, but because I had seen that perspective, I have a perspective of America now. I can balance both. I will not run into millions of debt, or I will not feel like, my education should solely be based on government intervention and things like that. That is because I was exposed to life in another place. And you are a dual citizen. Give your children the benefits that come with being a dual citizen. Don't be selfish and keep them here, localize them. No matter how you localize them in America, the perspective can never be like that of taking them to Nigeria to have some type of education in Nigeria. Personally, I feel like every Nigerian, that has, especially even so many Nigerians will tell you, uncles, aunties, they've seen change, a lot of change in children that either were castigated in America, destroyed, their records. Imagine a child commits one small offense in school and is arrested, is in jail.
Small offense?
Yeah, small, maybe fight. I fought in school, but it never affected my record, never stopped me from getting a job. But in this country, you fight in school, is on their record, it can affect them, destroy their life. They might pick something from a store that they need to be corrected. People understand in society, okay, it's a 10-year-old, we'll take this sweet from him, we'll keep it back, we'll educate him. That thing might be on that child's record forever and destroy his life.
A child shoplifting is not a small criminal. It's
not, but we are talking of children, right? Nobody should claim like they are saints. Children can make mistakes.
Children, what age? We're talking about teenagers. We're talking about
remember teenagers, 13 to 19.
I gave you an example of fighting. Have you never fought before?
I have.
I
don't think I did.
Okay, but if you
fought while I was in school 3 times.
And that was not on your record, right? And you never,
because we don't have a record in Nigeria.
Yeah.
That is why many people behave.
Remember,
system. There's no system of control.
System is.
Well, if I leave you here, Mazi, we will drag this fight from
It's not because.
So let's just dedicate.